it's a total economic, spiritual, psychological revolution that has to occur.
It could in no way be declared misinformation.
I hope that this interview, wakes people up.
It's easy to say, can you remake the economic system? It's obviously not in one go. It's a psychological thing. It's a technological thing. How do we actually reshape the human economy? I mean, you mentioned Best Kept Secret as a docuseries. I also looked at A Century of War, was a documentary that I put out through Amazon and RT, which looks at how we have been basically predicating ourselves in this scarcity model of economy, right? And slavery plays into that because it's the idea that there's too many people. We don't, there's only a limited amount of resources. There's too many people. People are kind of a waste on, we're better off without them. Let's just get rid of them. No, actually, I argue that we have infinite resources because it's the human mind creating that actually gives value to things. Oil has no value unless a human mind figures out, a combustible engine, for example, right? So that creates the resource. Human creativity is the key. We have to have a transformation of how we model our economy away from this idea as, sort of humans as brute labor, and actually seeing humans as this amazing creative tool and augmenting higher powers of technology, raising the standard of living, using humans in a way that we actually empower them, not using them, but like allowing them to feel empowered on this planet and to transform the way that we see this. But it's a total psychological, spiritual revolution that has to take place from a traumatized human race as we are, that most people are traumatized by physical, sexual, verbal abuse as children, wars, famines, economic catastrophes, trying to pay the bills. All these things are different forms of the matrix model to traumatize the human. So of course you're going to have a system that basically devalues human life, right? And doesn't look at a human as a sacred being, which we are. So it's a total economic, spiritual, psychological revolution that has to occur.
But you look at what has happened from the end of 2019, let's just take the end of 2019, to now, in terms of people all over the world awakening to things that they would have dismissed before. And you can see the speed at which this can change. And because it's about numbers, and the cult doesn't have the numbers in and of itself, it can only manipulate the population to give its agenda support. But if you look at the speed of the change in the last 2 years, particularly in the last year, particularly in the last 6 months, then you can see how fast things can turn. Because I've used this analogy many times before, and I think it's very accurate. You can have a dam and holding this great body of water back, big, strong dam. And from the time that the dam is built to the time that cracks starting to appear in it can be very, very, very long, long period, decades. But the time between the cracks appearing and the bloody thing coming down can be very short. And, we shouldn't get caught in the idea that this is an impregnable force that we are dealing with. It is not. It's not even, through most of its personnel, a very highly intelligent force. It's a force that is very skilled in manipulating the perceptions, thus the behavior, thus the acquiescence of the target population. That's its great ability. And when we take our minds back and we take our backbones back, that advantage is taken away.
I'm a huge fan of the transformational breathing or Soma breath work. Wim Hof's made that really, really famous. It's something that can move you from your sympathetic nervous system, where you are in fight or flight constantly, where you're unable to digest your food, you're unable to rest your mind, you're unable for your immune system to be working very well. Everything is suppressed in fight or flight because all the body's interested in is getting you through this period of trauma or stress. So if you're rested in fight or if you're in fight or flight, you need a tool to get you in to rest and digest, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. And the breath work does that. Taking in the breath work and following a breathing pattern can really transform you, move you from your sympathetic nervous system into your parasympathetic nervous system, where you get that healing response, where you can produce stem cells, where you can actually get into a transcendental state. Believe it or not, people report that they feel quite high afterwards. They feel quite emotional, and this is all from your own oxygen supply. The lady that I follow on Facebook, her name is Shay Marie, and she does free breath sessions for people. So this isn't about, you need to go and learn a new skill and it's going to cost lots of money. You can go onto YouTube. Wim Hof has got free breathing sessions. You can go onto Shay Marie's Facebook page, who offers free breath work all the time, and it's just guided breath work that can help your body to get into that rested state, and it really does help mental well-being. I've had clients that have had anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and they've been able to really control that by doing regular breath sessions. It's just breathing, that's all it is. Everybody can do it. It's free, it's simple, and it will have a profound effect on your mental and physical health.
So after you spoke out, I mean, particularly the Joe Rogan interview, obviously Joe Rogan is a huge podcast, so your name was everywhere. And I saw, people attacking, having a go, criticism of your views and stuff. Did you expect that when you spoke out, or did it come as a bit of a surprise? Because what you're trying to do is help people, obviously.
Sure. I led the early treatment efforts in the United States, published the first early treatment protocols. Joe and I spent a lot of time on early treatment. I've testified in the U.S. Senate. And I think all those efforts really were working to save Americans from hospitalization and death. So these points that I made were all supported in the medical literature. I was pinpoint on the Joe Rogan interview. I was citing every single paper. So it was basically data. It could in no way be declared misinformation. It was pinpoint and accurate. And I've never had anybody actually engage me face-to-face in a conversation on any of this. So it seems to be a lot of sniping from positions of insecurity.
Yeah, you find that a lot. People just throw mud and run. They don't tend to want to have a conversation about it.
They don't seem to be supporting staff. They seem to be supporting the policy. I know some people have had support and emotional meetings with managers because they don't want to see this. They don't want to lose these staff. It seems to be a bit of a mixed bag where others are just, it's not our doing. It's a government directive, and there's nothing we can do about it. So we're trying to just, ramp up the pressure and galvanise the numbers, and just so that we can make that awareness, because I don't think the public realise, quite the state the health service is going to be in when we're all gone. I work for the ambulance service, and currently, our wait times for less urgent calls is anything between 10 to 12 hours. Jeez. So, this is, and I know that from experience because I recently had an injury, and that's what I was told. I would wait 9.5 hours with a broken ankle. So
it's bizarre.
The impact, yeah. So the impact is it's catastrophic. So what we're trying to do is just raise our voices and just try and get them to see sense as regards this policy.
Not really. We had one incident. I think this is on a Friday, when one of my secretaries told me, we just got a call. We don't know who it was, but they warned us if we come back on Monday to the office, we're all going to be blown up. Nothing happened. It was an anonymous caller. However, a few weeks later, I was in the middle of an interview with a guy from Switzerland. The police knocked on the door, 10 officers, very nice people, and they said they had received an anonymous warning that a bomb had been planted in my office someplace. And they asked me if I could move to a friend's place or to a relative's place because they would have to search my office. So they did that with 2 dogs, found nothing. A lot of people were worried, oh my God, maybe they did it because they wanted to plant, or they wanted to plant bugs or something in there. I don't know. They're really nice people. In fact, 5 of these officers, I managed to talk to them. 5 of them you couldn't talk to, but 5 of them were quite interested in listening to what I had to tell them, and now they're following the sessions of the Corona Committee.
Oh, that's fantastic. The amount of times people wake up to stuff, if you just plant the odd seed here and there, I think most people now realise that something's not right, and it's just about planting that seed, isn't it?
It'll be an interesting thing to watch. Where I am now, I'm quite resourceful. I'm willing to lose the job. All right, I've got to find a job. I've got to find an income to support my family, my wife, my daughter, my mortgage, my bills, my car, my food.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because if it's meant to be that way, then I'll just stand up and get on with it. I'm not going to sit back and be fearful. I'm not going to rise to their occasion. They're not going to make me feel sad and upset and worried, because I know what they're about.
Exactly.
As we all do who are on this wavelength. So come the 3rd of February, and later on, as the weeks and months progress into April, I'm likely to lose my job, and I'm ready for it. Bring it on.
Well, I'm just one person. I hope that other people will use my articles to take action, send it to politicians, send it to, again, vaccine manufacturers, try to recruit people on our side, file police reports. In your country, we need to get as many police investigations as possible, serve notices of liability to the criminals that once you give the information to somebody and they don't act, you can serve them with a notice of liability, and they could be held accountable in a court of law later on. There is a lawsuit right now, an investigation at the ICC. It was filed by Reiner Fuellmich. There's another investigation at the Metropolitan Police in London, in UK. And there's also an investigation here in Finland. So what people should be doing is contacting the Metropolitan Police, sending their testimonies, flood them with emails, and your testimonies and stuff. These are the actions that anybody can take. So I want to see more people taking action, though. I mean, I hope that this interview, wakes people up.
In your view, what is all of this about? The last 2 years. What's the end goal in your opinion?
Oh, this is spiritual warfare, my friend. 100%. This is if you look closely at everything that's going on, you can see the inversion, which is typical occult stuff. This is satanic evil stuff. You can call it whatever you want: globalism, new world order, tyranny, worldwide tyranny. There's a bunch of different names for it, but the main goal, at least in my opinion, is to completely destroy our civilization and form a new world order: one world government, one language, one religion, one currency. That's the ultimate goal, and we'll be the slaves, and we'll do what they tell us to do. I know that sounds far-fetched, maybe not as far-fetched as it did 2 years ago.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I think people's idea of far-fetched has shifted somewhat in the last 2 years. Yeah. On a personal level, though, are you sad to leave the job? Obviously,
absolutely, yeah.
Years,
I'm 55 now, so I'm in the twilight of my career, so to speak. But my plan was, I'm not a 5-year plan man, but my plan was to go at 60. Right. I still feel I had a lot to give to the job, and up until the last 2 years I was thoroughly enjoying it still. No substitute for that, being in the classroom, having a great crack with the kids and so on. So I was loving it. My plan was to go at 60, but then the last 2 years, the dystopian
just
nightmare,
changed everything. Yeah.
Just seeing ridiculous things, Gareth, that when the mask mandate was brought in, after 4 months, of course, of the government telling you that masks were useless, and then it switched on a dime like that. And they were brought into school. I knew they were going to be brought into school, but it was so ridiculous. We didn't have them in classrooms. It was just in corridors and communal areas. So you get a situation where all the kids are masked up, and then they come in the classroom, 30 kids in the classroom, all hugging, and no social, it's impossible to social distance in a classroom. All perfect. And then they get up, walk to the door, mask on, and you just think, is COVID lurking outside the classroom going, I'm going to get you when you come out of here. But even worse than that, we had work areas where the teachers are basically working behind a desk like this, very similar to this, open work area. You've got a little barrier here, and then you've got the corridor where the masses go. You stand that side of the desk, got to have your mask on. You sit down at your desk here, no mask required.
It's a clever virus.
But again, I want to emphasise, the common law is what stopped slavery. The common law, and Granville Sharp in particular, was the person that took a black slave off of a ship with habeas corpus, which is English common law and statute, took him back into London to the High Court. And it was a High Court judge, Lord Mansfield, that said that slavery is unlawful in England. And that reverberated around the colonies. It eventually caused, in 1860, a civil war in America, because the British were still there. You still had loyalists to the British, and that's what really caused, nearly 100 years later, the Civil War. So there's lots of elements to the common law, and it's all about individual rights, and it doesn't matter what colour you are. If you're on English soil, the English common law protects you, end of. Whether you are black, white, brown, whatever. We're not interested in your colour, we're interested in you as a human being.